If someone told me that a dream could change my life, I would have laughed. But that was before everything happened, before the ancestors spoke to me. My name is Ifeanyi. I was born in a small village but moved to the city when I was young. My father always said, "Forget the old ways, focus on the future." And so I did. I stopped listening to my grandmother's stories. I stopped praying at the shrine. I stopped believing in spirits. But one night, everything changed. I was lying in bed after a long day when I felt something off. The air in my room felt heavy. My skin crawled like something unseen was watching me. And then I closed my eyes and fell into the strangest dream. I was standing in my village, but it was not the village I remembered. Everything was dying. The river was dry. The trees were bare. The sky was dark. I turned around and saw them, dozens of shadowy figures standing in the mist, watching me. One of them stepped forward. She was an old woman, her skin wrinkled like tree bark, her eyes glowing like burning coals. She opened her mouth and whispered my name. "Ifeanyi, Ifeanyi, you have forgotten us." The ground started shaking. I tried to run, but my feet were stuck. Then I saw something in the distance, a tall, dark figure with no face, growing larger and larger as it moved toward me. I screamed and woke up. I sat up in bed, gasping for air. My heart was racing. I wiped my forehead. Sweat. Just a dream, right? Just a silly nightmare? That's what I told myself until the signs started. The next morning, I opened my curtains and saw something strange. Black birds. Not one, not two, but dozens of them, all perched outside my window, staring at me. I waved my hand to scare them, but they didn't move. Not even a blink. At the market, a little girl ran up to me. She grabbed my hand and whispered, "The old ones are calling you." Then, before I could say anything, she ran away. That was when I knew something was wrong. I called my grandmother. When she picked up, she didn't even say hello. "You had the dream, didn't you?" My mouth went dry. How did you know?" I stammered. She sighed. "Pack your bags. Come home, now." I arrived at the village that evening. My grandmother was already waiting outside her house, looking up at the sky. "They have been waiting for you," she said without turning around. She took me inside and made me sit by the fire. Then she asked me to tell her everything. I told her about the old woman, the dry land, the shadowy figures, the faceless being. She nodded slowly. "The spirits are restless. They are trying to warn you, but you must listen." "Warn me? About what?" She sighed. "There is something in our family's past that was hidden from you, but the ancestors remember, and now they want you to know." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Tonight you will sleep by the sacred fire," she said, "and this time you must not run." That night I lay beside the fire, my heart pounding. Slowly I drifted into sleep, and immediately I was back in the forest. This time the old woman was closer. She grabbed my hand and suddenly visions filled my mind. I saw my great-grandfather, a powerful healer, betrayed by his own brother. I saw a sacred shrine burn to the ground. I saw my family turning away from the old ways, breaking an ancient oath. And then I saw my father. He was young, kneeling before the faceless being, begging for something. The being stretched out its long arms and whispered, "A deal is made." I gasped, stumbling backward. What deal? The old woman turned to me, her eyes filled with sorrow. Your father traded something precious to escape the spirits, and now it is your burden to carry. I woke up screaming. I ran to my grandmother. What did my father do? She sighed. Many years ago, your father made a deal to abandon the old ways in exchange for wealth and power. But the spirits do not forget. Now they are calling for you to restore what was lost. I was shaking. What happens if I don't? She looked at me, her face grim. Then your bloodline will fade. One by one, the spirits will take back what is theirs. I spent days thinking about what to do. If I ignored the warning, I could return to my city life. But if I listened, I would have to restore my family's connection to the ancestors. One night I stood before the old shrine, the place my father had abandoned. I am ready, I whispered. A sudden wind rushed through the trees, and for the first time I felt it, the presence of something ancient, something watching. And then, in the distance, I heard a voice. Welcome home, child. From that day, I changed. I started honoring my ancestors. I started listening. I realized that the spirits were never gone. They were just waiting for me to remember. And so I ask you, when the ancestors call, will you listen, or will you wait until it is too late? Because sometimes dreams are not just dreams. They are messages, warnings, and sometimes they are the only thing that can save